It's just what a great week. You saw some teams go down, and you saw some teams stand up. Who are those teams that went down? Who are those teams to stand up? Well, as we do on the Bailey Pod, a little popcorn. Go get your neighbors. Matter of fact, tonight, go get the UPS driver that was in your neighborhood this week. Go get the FedEx guy that was in your neighborhood, or the young lady who was in your neighborhood this week, and let's get ready for the show. Welcome to the Bailey Pod. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another great edition here on the Bailey Pod. I'll be bringing you the Bailey Pod every Thursday. Again, it's every Thursday during the weekday at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. on Thursday. Happy Thursday to everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's off to a strong week. Had a lot of great football around the Nick 10 this week, last week. Saw some teams go down. Saw some teams rise to the occasion. We saw some nail biters. We're going to get into those games here in just a minute. Throughout the week, I'll be bringing you some great content. So again, as I stated in my opening, make sure you guys go follow, go like the Bailey Pod, subscribe. Make sure you don't forget to click that button in the bottom right-hand corner so you can be notified for all new content that I'll be dropping throughout the week. Again, you won't know what type of content we're putting out unless you subscribe. So make sure you guys subscribe. Last but not least, as I always state in my show, I want to thank those who have actually supported the Bailey Pod. Definitely means a lot to me. You guys keep coming. I'll keep serving. Again, you keep coming. I'll keep serving. Again, we're going to have a great night tonight. We got an action-packed show tonight. We got Harold Bone in the house from Rockton Roscoe News. We have Matt Trowbridge in the house from Rockford Register Star. And our special guest tonight, Coach Beck from Belvidere North, is in the house to talk about their big W over the Vikings last weekend. Well, again, every week, I come out with a list of players that I'll illuminate that stood out on the Bailey Pod. We'll do this weekly. So if you're not on week one, make sure you ball out, and hopefully you make week two. But this week's Bailey Pod, the Bailey Pod top performers of the week. Again, the Bailey Pod top performers of the week. These are guys who performed with their teams throughout last Friday. Really did a good job. Some standout athletes that I'm going to illuminate here. And to start off the list, let's go right ahead. Let's go over to our first guy here. Our first guy that makes the Bailey Pod list, Grayson Weber. What a great night he had in the air for the Guilford Vikings. They come up with a huge loss over there at Belvidere North. But again, he played exceptionally well at that quarterback position. We're going to hear some really good things about him for the weeks to come. His one of his go-to guys, Keeson Taylor, Guilford. He had a great game, really big on offense. I'm giving him the nickname, the formidable one. What this guy does on defense is nothing less than phenomenal. Then he comes on offense and he gives him, some good minutes on offense. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does throughout the week playing on both sides of the ball, but congratulations to him. Gavin Sanders, Auburn, did a phenomenal job last week with Auburn. They come up short to Hononegah, but in his debut as a Knight, nothing short than sensational on the ground for him. Ben Booker, Belvidere North. Wow, what a night he had with his team. Belvidere North comes out with a big W against Guilford. This is a young man. I expect Ben Booker to make my list every week. That's the expectation I have of this young man. I think he's that type of kid that we could see here on the Bailey Pod top performers list for weeks to come, week in and week out. Last but not least, Jackson Cook, Cookie Man, did a phenomenal job. He had a great offensive night on offense, caught a bunch of passes. I believe he had a couple touchdowns, and then also, too, he played on both sides of the ball. So big congrats to you young men that made the list. Again, if you didn't make the list this week, we got about 10 or 12 more weeks for you to be able to get on this list. Again, what I look at, guys that make my list are, what they did Friday night or what they did Saturday afternoon. I do look at stats, but I do look at when I'm at games of the week, I do look at overall performance. I got a good chance to see Guilford and Belvidere North. So the guys that made the list from Belvidere North and Guilford, I saw them with my naked eye. They're well deserving of this list. Some of you other guys that are on this list, saw some film on you throughout the week. You guys look great, and that's why you guys were able to make the list. So we're going to continue to move forward through my show here. We're going to go ahead and just get right into the show. We're going to get to our guest here in just a second. I think last week, we were talking about on the show some teams who we thought that were actually going to be teams that could possibly be teams that we could be talking about here in the next 8 to 9 weeks. We're going to start. One team we're going to start with is Hononegah. And I want to welcome my contributors here to the show. Top right, Harold Bone, Roscoe News, and bottom of the screen here, the great Matt Trowbridge, Rockford Register Star. What's happening, fellas?
We're here. You're happening.
Yeah, we're happening. Okay. Guys, thanks for joining the show tonight. I just want to jump right into Hononegah versus Auburn. Guys, are we surprised? Harold, I'm going to start with this question. It's going to be directed to you first. Matt, we'll come to you here in a second. But Harold, were we surprised with the outcome of this game? Usually, when we see on Friday nights or Saturday afternoons, this matchup between these two programs, Auburn and Hononegah, we usually see, sometimes we've seen basketball scores, but we didn't see that this time around. It was a closer game than a lot of people thought. Not Matt, but Harold, can you speak to that a little bit? How surprised were you at the score of the game?
Well, if you had a chance to be there or see the game on film, you would not be surprised by the score of that ended that football game. The two teams combined for nearly 275 yards in penalties. They had 25 between the two of them. Both teams ran the ball pretty well. Both teams ran for over 200 yards, but really it was a mistake-filled early season football game between two teams that are trying to figure themselves out. Hononegah on offense, they're trying to figure out what they're going to be after losing so much talent off of last year. And Auburn, bringing in so many new pieces, I'm not sure if they know exactly what type of team they are. I know you mentioned Gavin Sanders in your opening, and he is an exciting football player. He is an exciting football player. Not only is he a great running back, but he's a great kick returner as well.
He had 148
on a lot of people in the kick return game.
Just to add to him, he had 148 on the ground, 1 TD, caught three balls for 42 yards and a TD. Despite the loss, guys, I don't know. I mean, to me, that's a decent night at the office, don't you think? Matt?
Definitely. And it was interesting to see how Auburn deployed him. He lined up wide at receiver a lot. So they're doing a lot of different things to use him. And it was my first time I saw Daniel Ballard. Impressed with him as a quarterback, that fast, but he took a beating. And there's this one time I remember he shook off 3 guys who had potential sacks. And I heard someone in the stand yell, and they still can't get him down. I thought he played a heck of a game.
Sure. Guys,
yeah, Matt, following up on that.
Again, go ahead, Harold.
Oh, sorry about that. Following up on that point, Hononegah in the game, they had 17 tackles for losses, that amounted to over 140 yards. I mean, that included 6 sacks and 2 interceptions. I mean, their defense was harassing Ballard that entire football game. The fact that the Ballard is able to play this week is pretty much a credit to how tough he is. I mean, he was banged up and probably really sore on Sunday because they were all over him in that football game.
Guys,
and but the other thing is, you're 100% right. They really pressured Ballard, but I was still impressed with Auburn's line. That was the best I've seen Auburn run block since Dan Apino was their coach, and their defensive line put pressure on Hononegah's backup quarterback. So it's Auburn was better on the lines than I would have thought, even though they couldn't really pass block very well.
Sure. Is guys, again, just looking at the score, sometimes the score doesn't tell it all. But, based on Hononegah's performance, do we, is it too early to think to say that Hononegah may not be that good as we projected them to be this season? Coming out and playing Auburn the way that they did, because again, I'm accustomed to seeing Hananiga putting up 50, 45 points. Does this mean that their offense isn't as potent as it has been in the past? Their defense is not as formidable as it's been in the past. Harold, can you just speak to that a little bit? Am I on? Am I off? I mean, I seem to believe that
I think their passing game is going to be something they have to grow into. Now they didn't have their starter in Shockley. He should be back for this week's game. There is some discussion on, are they going to do that, or are they going to rest him another week? I would expect him to play this week. And then the passing game should come along, as he's a little bit better athlete than Berg, who they had at the position last week. They don't have a lot of burners on the outside, though. That I think is very different than from previous years. I know we talked about it in the preview show last week for the season. I don't know if this offensive line is as good as previous years. I know that they have talent coming back and they slid some guys around, but I don't know. There's just something missing from that line that's making them click, and maybe they'll grow and develop into that. But right now, they're not explosive enough on offense, and they can't protect the passer enough. And because Auburn's not going to be one of the most talented defensive lines in the Nick 10. Once they go up against guys that are a little bit more talented, I think if they don't shore things up there, they're really going to struggle. And, the holes that the running backs got through, they broke a lot of tackles along the way. So it's not like they were getting 3 and 4 and 5 yards down the field without anyone touching them. The running backs were able to break a lot of tackles and then, get 10, 11, 12 yards a pop at some points. So it's really going to come down to, can Hananiga shore up that offensive line to give their quarterback time to develop some sort of chemistry with the outside? And can Shockley stay healthy if he does get knocked around a little bit? Those are the things we talked about last week. And last week's game on Saturday kind of really hammered home the points that we talked about last week. I don't think this first game against Auburn really did anything to calm any sort of question that anyone's going to have as far as Hananiga moving forward, and can they compete for the top of the Nick 10?
Right.
That's what I was going to say. I want to give a shout out to Harold. He said last week that the right side of their line was a problem. I was thinking, you just run a lot to the left, and I was up in the Auburn press box, and they just kept saying, I thought this Hananiga line was a lot better than it is, but Harold pointed out that the right side was an issue, and that was a big issue.
Right. Yeah, I just don't think. I think this year.
So I want to point this out because I got a little bit of a kickback and flack. I'm not saying that's a bad. I think it's just young, and they need to develop that understanding as to what the guy next to them is doing from the center out, and that's where they struggled a lot of times. It seemed like the communication between the right side wasn't as good as the left side, and that's just something that's going to come as the season progresses and moves on. They're going to get better. Hananiga has too good of a coaching staff, and those players are too good to not continue to improve as the season moves on. I'd expect them to get a lot better, especially these first couple of games when they play some of the teams in the lower half of the conference. They're going to get better. Now, are they going to be better against North and, Guilford and Freeport and Harlem? Well, they got a long ways to go to get there.
Right. And I guess that's part of my question. I mean, do we see, based on, what we've seen, Belvidere North did against Guilford last week, Guilford battle with Belvidere North. We saw Freeport beat Boylan. Is Freeport going to be that competitive this year? Is this really a down year for Boylan? So I think the way the conference can go, there's one team in particular that I know people are going to have hell with, and that's Belvidere North, and Guilford too. If they can just play all 4 quarters, I think that's what got Guilford in a lot of trouble too, is they just didn't play all 4 quarters. But as it relates to Hananiga, I just don't think Hananiga really truly has those playmakers at these skill positions as they have in the past at the quarterback position. I know we talk about this young man. He's got decent arm talent, which is it's yet to be, determined how good this kid is going to be. What do they have at the running back position? I mean, I know, they got a couple guys back there that rotated last week, but I just don't see it this year to where Hananiga has a guy that can go 40, 50, 60, like we saw last year and the years prior to. So,
Yeah, I fully agree with that, Tim. There's not anybody on Hononegah of the caliber of talent of anyone on North. I would say Roman, Booker, I would say Alexander, or anyone on Guilford's, Messiah Tilson, or any of the other, even Sanders for that matter, against Auburn. Right. I just don't see that skill level there. I think as an overall team, they're going to be good enough to finish, top 3, but really to knock off the top 2, they got a lot of growing to do, and I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe it's coming from, there's a couple of sophomore kids that are good players. Maybe they'll pull them up. That's not a common thing for Hononegah, and I don't expect that at this point. But the dynamic playmakers that they've had the last 3, 4, 5 years, it's just not there with this group right now.
Yeah. Based on what I saw against Auburn, I think Hononegah is going to have to really step their game up and correct their issues that they have, on offense and defense, and just be ready to play, on Friday nights. And, they're a good team. We're not saying that they're not a good team, but we're just addressing the concerns that we have. Again, my big concern is, what type of playmakers do they bring back? You guys are talking about the O-line. What do they have at the O-line positions to where, they're going to be a more balanced, they're going to be a well-balanced team this year as they were last year in the years past. So that still remains to be seen. Guys, let's go ahead and continue to move forward. Our guest is waiting on us. Matt, you and I were at the game last week. Game of the week was Belvidere North, Guilford. Wow, what a game. I think these two teams, we're definitely going to be talking about these two teams here probably in the next 8 to 9 weeks. Should be talking about both of these teams week in and week out as we bring you the Bailey Pod. But Matt, what a treat. Can you talk to me a little bit about some of the things that actually stood out to you, from Belvidere North? Let's just start with Belvidere North.
Well, I think what stood out the most is how they got, burned in the passing game in the first half, and in the second half just really shut that down. And I've seen them do that before. I think they've got good schemes. I think they've got good players. And, we keep looking at the big plays and the big runs that Belvidere North pulls off, and they do it all the time, and including a 53-yard pass on 3rd and 20, so it's not always just on the ground. But you kind of get overlooked because they don't have that many shutouts or something, but their defense can get burned for a while. But they really have a habit of stepping up at big moments.
Right. I agree. I think, based on what I saw defensively, like you said, they're prone to give up big plays here and there. But I really, really, truly love what Coach Fagan did defensively in the second half, making his adjustments, start blitzing a little bit, didn't give Weber a lot of time as he got in the first half, under a little bit of duress in the second half, Weber was. But what they did defensively coming out and just really game planning and scheming the way that they did defensively, kudos to Coach Fagan and his defensive unit, did a phenomenal job. Offensively, Matt, you just alluded to it. We know Belvidere North's going to pop off that 50, that 60, maybe that 80 with Booker, Roman, maybe even Bucci. What they did, on the ground was phenomenal. I am beginning to see a little bit more balance in their offense, which definitely I want to see that. I'm sure Coach Beck does too. But what they did Friday night, they put on a really, really great offensive display, and just showing the will to come back and continue to fight and making those adjustments in the second half. This is what championship teams do. Like I said on the overtime, Scott threw me a question, and I just told him, I said, I'm not surprised. I said, this is what championship teams do. And we should expect more of this from Belvidere North as the weeks to come. So.
Now, I know Fagan's been around for a long time. Was he one of your coaches?
No, Coach Fagan was not. I'm a little bit older than Coach Fagan, so but he came. I believe Coach Fagan came in. I think he started coaching at Boylan. I want to say 06, 07. I'm not sure, but the next man up here, he'll be able to shed some light on us with this question here. So, guys, let's go ahead and continue to move with the show. I'm going to bring on the winning coach from the game the other night, Belvidere North and Guilford, Coach Jeff Beck. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Good to see you, man. Everything good?
Yeah, absolutely. Nice start to the school year. Able to come out with a win last Friday night. Kids are excited about this week, heading over to Freeport. So, yeah, no complaints on my end.
Good. Have a good summer. How was your summer? Before we get into football, how was your summer?
Yeah, well, my summer was a lot of football. So,
Okay.
I teach some driving, and then other than that, pretty much football and hanging out with the family. So
no vacations. Come on, I know your wife, kids love vacations. Come on, no vacations this year?
Up to Lake Geneva a couple times, and just hanging out up there. So, but yeah, pretty much local.
Nice. So back to football, Coach. Again, big congrats on the W Friday night over Guilford. Coach, talk to us a little bit about your game plan coming in. I mean, obviously you knew Guilford speed with Tilson, some other key players that they have that have really great speed. How did you feel going in that you guys really matched up with them in terms of just the physicality and also to the actual speed of play?
Yeah, every team's different, and it's they have some of the big names coming back, but you really don't know until you get out on the field and see in that week 1 game, and you got no film on them. There's always a couple kids that surprise you. I'm like, man, where was that kid last year? Is he on the lower levels or just not playing on the varsity level? And now he's making an impact in a game. So, I think that Guilford team is going to give a lot of teams problems. I really do. I think they did a really good job executing their game plan. And they kind of had us on the ropes a little bit there in the first half. And just, credit to our kids, resiliency, there and taking coaching in the second half and, being able to come out with a win and not really felt that we played our best football. I think we had a lot of mistakes, that we need to clean up moving forward. But to beat a good team in the opener like that, but we felt not playing our best. I hope we can get those things improved and we can get that, upward trajectory going for the rest of the season.
Sure. Talk a little bit, Coach. Talk a little bit about, we highlighted Coach Fagan here just a second ago. We talked about his ability to, make those defensive adjustments. I know you guys were giving up a lot in the first half. It looked like Weber was not under a lot of duress as he was in the second half. What were some of those adjustments that you guys talked about at halftime that you guys needed to make to come out and put forth that great effort to go up and actually come out with a W?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Fagan does a great job with our defense. One of the things I think he does best is, we'll go into a week with a game plan that might be, this big. And then all of a sudden, at halftime, we got to say to the kids, like, hey, what do you feel comfortable in? What do you feel like is going to give us the best chance to defend inside run or defend the pass game? And our kids are usually pretty honest with us and just say, yeah, let's be in this. And, Coach Fagan's like, all right, we're going to cut that game plan that started like this down to here. And this is what we're going to be really good at in the second half to take away A, B, and C. So that, was a lot of our halftime discussion was just, getting with the kids at different positions and it was a little uncharacteristic of us. I think we gave up a couple of big plays in the passing game. One of them, to Keeson, who just is a heck of a football player. Antoine Williams had really good coverage on that. And, Keeson is a big physical receiver that kind of gave him a little bump and went up and plucked the ball out of the air. And, we can't fault Antoine. It was a little out and up route, and Antoine was on top of it the whole time. He didn't bite on anything, but, it's just, Taylor was just a little bit more physical going up and getting that ball. And I think Antoine rebounded well after that. And then the second one, just good scheme by them, running Tilson across, getting eyes on him and kind of faking the stalk with the Lopez kid and then getting him vertical, and you get your eyes stuck in the backfield on a kid with, speed like Tilson, makes you kind of forget about those receivers running vertical.
Right.
So we gave them 2 big plays there in the first half. But other than that, in the first half, I mean, we played really well defensively. And then, like I said, just getting with the kids and getting them in what they were most comfortable with, there in the second half, I think was the key.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because I thought too that the coverage on Keeson, he was all over him, but I mean, how are high school kids supposed to defend an NFL-sized tight end?
Yeah, it's funny because like I said here at the beginning, I think Guilford's going to give a lot of people problems. Weber is doing a really good job in his third year as a starter. I mean, he throws a really nice ball, super accurate. I told one of the coaches afterwards, he reminds me of Jace Bankert, who played for us a few years ago, that he just, he can hit a spot a lot of places on the field where I think a normal high school quarterback may miss by 6 inches or a foot. And now that ball gets deflected and he puts it right on the spot. There were a couple catches that were made that night that we felt we had really good coverage, and he put a good ball out there to his athletes and just let them go make a play. And again, we told Antoine, like, really good coverage. And like I said, he's trying to body up. Antoine's a super competitor, and he's about 6'1", 6'2", probably about 165, 170 pounds. And he just lost that battle going up with
Right.
Keeson, and that's going to happen. It was a good ball to a really good athlete. And
Yeah.
again, I just really credit, a kid like Antoine and the rest of our defense, just their resiliency that, we have a saying in our program, wipe it clean. And that's exactly what they did. And then in the second half, they really stood up to everything that Guilford had to throw at us.
Coach, with that being
I'm going
said,
to disagree slightly. I was going to
with
say,
that-
I think Jace Bankert ranks with Alex Bennett of Freeport as the two best throwers I've seen in my 35 years here. Jace Bankert's hard to compare anybody to.
Yeah, no, and really, I'm not trying to compare the two like their careers.
I know.
Jace was a super accurate quarterback. Like he did not have the strongest arm in the world. It wasn't like he could, uncork one 60 yards down the field. But if you stood across a gym, or field from Jace, and you told him to throw a ball from 30 yards away and hit you on your left shoulder, he'd hit you on your left shoulder. That's just like, he was that accurate. I saw him do it in the gym when we were working, in the off seasons multiple times, and Coach Jim Ryan, who used to call our offense, would work with, Jace and some of the other quarterbacks in the off season, just extremely accurate. And I think that was what made him such a good quarterback for us, is that he threw a really catchable ball. We had a lot of good athletes out there catching the ball at those times. And that just reminded me of Weber. Like I said, he was standing on the right hash and, banging a 10-yard out to his receiver on the opposite sideline and putting it right on his hands, right on the sideline. And that's really, you don't see a ton of high school quarterbacks doing that. So.
No, not at all. Coach, I know, you got week one underneath your belt. How is it, when you're going into week one, you're playing a tough program as a Guilford, do coaches such as yourself, would you rather play those tough teams in week one, week two, or would you rather see some of the teams that may be on the bottom? How does that work for you? And then what's your preference, or do you not have one?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have one. I think it kind of depends on your team. Like, if we got a good core of guys coming back, we got a pretty experienced team. So, going into a week one against a tough opponent wasn't something that like we were really super worried about. I would think having a really young team, we're pretty inexperienced up front on our offensive line, and they had some pretty good defensive linemen out there, and we struggled with that a little bit. But overall, we have a pretty experienced team, a good core of guys that have in this senior class been with us since they were sophomores. So, we would just explain to them, pretty early on, hey, this is going to be a big stage. It's probably going to be game of the week. It's probably going to be a few thousand people there at Mill Brown Stadium. And, it's going to be, the lights are going to be bright. As Coach Fagan says, lights are going to be bright and we got to show up. So,
right.
I think, like I said, really kind of depends on your team. If you're pretty young and inexperienced, maybe walking into that, kind of buzzsaw game week one, would be pretty daunting. But we returned a fair amount of experience, so it wasn't something that I think we were overwhelmed by.
Right. By you guys winning the game, Coach, what did that tell you? Where do you think you guys are right now in terms of just, your level of execution. I know it's only week one. I know you're not really truly where you want to be yet, but, how pleased were you really with week one, knowing that you guys got past the Guilford Vikings?
I think looking back at the film, when you're in the moment, you're unaware of some of the, the kind of the mistakes you're making. We got sideline review. We look at that pretty frequently with the TV monitor on the sideline. But when you really get to look back at it after the game, and you see some mistakes you made, that's kind of where I think you really make those huge strides and those huge improvements. So that was our weekend as coaches, just breaking that film down and getting those corrections to our kids, so that we're ready for Freeport. I mean, Freeport looked really good against Boylan, and they're fast and they're physical, and Coach Dedman does a good job having those kids coached up. So I think, really just kind of looking at being super critical, not just looking at the result and saying, well, we won the game. Well, we still have a lot of things we can improve on. Like I said, that was our weekend is, getting our kids prepared for Freeport, but also making sure that we don't just, look past the Guilford game and say, well, we won, so there's nothing to improve. There was definitely a lot to improve from that game.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. I want to go back to something you were talking about just a little bit ago. The mantra of wipe it clean. How do you teach that to your kids leading up during summer camp and throughout your whole program? How do you teach that? Because that's a hard thing for any athlete, much less a high school athlete, to do. They're going to think about what previously happened, but they got to move ahead. You got to. How do you guys teach that? What are some of the things you do?
Yeah, that was a Coach Fagan thing. He kind of brought that in, and was just like, hey, if you're a player and you made a mistake, what you messed up, like before we even get a chance to say anything to a kid, look at us and literally just say, hey, I know I made that mistake. I'm wiping it clean. And we go as a coach, okay, like we'll address it later. We'll probably watch it on film, whether it's in practice or a game, and get some comments, made out for the kids. But now we as coaches, we're like, okay, that kid understands. Like they knew they made a mistake, whatever it is, assignment, alignment, responsibility when the ball snapped. Our kids just kind of embraced it. And, we do it as coaches too. I mean, I'll mess up a formation. I call it incorrect formation, and the kids make me right. And I'm over there doing this, and sometimes it's difficult to get out of your own head and to get on to the next play. There was one time last year, I forgot what game it was, but Coach Fagan, who brought this in, kind of wasn't happy with the call he just made, didn't feel like he put our kids in a chance to be successful. And, rather than focusing on the next play or the next series, he's kind of hanging his head a little bit. And I literally walked over to him and brushed my hands down the front of his shirt and said, dude, wipe it. Let's go. We got to move on. Right. So it's just when we notice things, aren't going right, we'll stop practice and we'll all physically do it.
Right.
And it's just a way to kind of reset. So really it's just a mentality,
right.
for our kids and our coaches it's something that we believe in, and we think it's been helpful, and it allows us to kind of reset. And like I said, it kind of acts as that acknowledgement from the kids to us as coaches, or us as coaches to the kids, that, hey, we made a mistake. Let's get past it together.
Right. And it sounds like to me, Coach, I mean, it's a great way to communicate with your athletes. And also too, it holds the actual entire program accountable, because if I'm a wide receiver, I ran the wrong route, and I go look at the sideline, I look at you, and I do, that's how I'm held accountable. I'm saying to myself, Coach, my bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get it next play. I'll make up for it. Obviously, you don't want kids to make mistakes, but I like that. I like that that what you guys do, because again, I think just looking at it from not even a football perspective, but just in general, you're holding those kids accountable. And then also too, at the end of the night, they're holding themselves accountable, because again, not too many teams to where you see when a player makes a mistake, he's looking at the sideline at his coach. Usually kids are looking away. Am I right? You drop a ball, you miss a tackle, you're going back to the huddle, maybe with your head down. But what you guys do, you hold your kids accountable. And I think that speaks to you guys' success.
Yeah. And, the main thing that I like about it is really, just getting to the next play. Like, I don't want a kid, we start chewing a kid and yelling and screaming and getting on him, and then all of a sudden the next play, his head's still down, his shoulders just still slumped, and he's not ready to go. So really, it's just like, hey, let's wipe it. We'll address it however it needs to be addressed, whether we need to stop, practice at a certain point and walk through something, or see, one of our defensive checks, or, one of our, like I said, our offensive plays and how we didn't get the job done. We'll address it, but we're just saying, it's accountability, and let's move on to the next play. And, Coach Fagan brought it in and started preaching it with the defense last year, and it's really just kind of spread, among our program. We see our lower level kids, when we get our varsity coaches over with the lower level kids, the same thing. They see it and they wipe it, and it's just something that's been beneficial for our program.
Right. Accountability. I love it. Coach, let's talk a little bit about your offense. I know we illuminated earlier in the show, before you came on, we were talking about, how you guys are a big play team. You guys can, with Booker, with guys like Booker and Roman, the athletes of that caliber, can take the ball on a pitch or up the gut 50, 60 yards. How important is it for you to, continue to do that week in and week out? Because again, or it may not be important to you, but how important is it to you and to the team for you guys to be able to have those type of big plays? Because I see when you guys have those big plays, what I see from where I'm standing, it galvanizes the rest of the team. So I'm assuming that it's very, very consequential to you as a coach, to where you guys are able to pop plays like that week in and week out. Is that something that you guys talk about during the week? I mean, again, these are big play guys. You're talking about Booker. I believe he's a 100-meter champ. Went down state for the 100 meters, I believe. 10-8 guy. Am I correct, Coach? 10-8, 9 guy. Roman, great speed, powerful back. Looked like he packed on about 10 or 15 pounds this year to his frame. So, he's running like a man on a mission. I mean, to me, you have two of the premier backs in the league, and some people will say, well, they're not running backs. Well, at the high school level, they're running backs. They may not be that athlete at the next level, because I think both of those guys are going on and they're going to play on the defensive side of the ball. But as it relates to what they do at the high school level with Belvidere North, how important is it to you in your offense that you get those type of big plays from those two individuals that I just mentioned?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the goals we have, offensively each week is we want to have 6 or more explosive plays. And so an explosive play for us is, we used to characterize it as a run over 15 or pass over 25. Really, to me now, I really call an explosive play anything over 10 yards. And we're looking to pop 6 or more of those a game. So, when you got a guy like Ben and a guy like Eric in your backfield, sometimes things aren't, moving as smoothly as you'd like, and they're able to break one of those long ones. And, really it doesn't, mask inefficiencies. We know that they're still there, but, it's something that we can rely on. And you guys mentioned it earlier, we got a big play receiver, like kid like Nathan Alexander. So, 3rd and 20, I think, most people knew the other night, pretty much everyone knew that we were going to throw the ball. And I know that's not something we do a ton, but it was also 3rd and 20. So, right. Andrew Bucci puts a great ball out there, and, Nathan is getting covered pretty well by a defensive back who's going to the SEC, and he makes a heck of a catch. And, it was hip-to-hip coverage. Tilson got beat a little bit at the start of the play, but he's fast enough to recover, and he was right on Nathan's hip. It was a really good ball. He was playing through Nathan's arms with his hand, and Nathan was able to hang on to it. So when you got those guys that can get those big plays, obviously, you never really kind of lose hope in a drive, because you never know when they're going to break one. So, obviously they're big play guys for us, and they give you that little kind of peace of mind in the back of your head that at any moment, they could break one. And Ben showed that last year in our playoff game against Caneland, and we gave him 4 carries and he had over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. That definitely wasn't by design.
Right.
We were moving the ball pretty well, on that first drive, and then we pitched a reverse to him, and he made a guy miss in space and went for like 30. And then after that, it was all within the scheme of what we were doing. The box was pretty tightly packed, so we tossed rocket to him, and he took it for 60. And then next drive out there, we went to overload, and they didn't adjust to it, and so we tossed rocket again, and he went for 80. And it was just one of those things that he had a spectacular night, historic performance, and it's a nice feeling as a coach to know that when you call those plays, they got the chance of going the distance. So
right.
Hey, in the NFL, they talk about one cut backs, and I always remember like Terrell Davis that way, and Eric Roman cut, he was going faster. How good was that one cut that Eric Roman made and put on the Jets?
Yeah, I mean, again, kind of like Tim said, Eric packed on some muscle in the offseason. He's probably about 215 right now. So I don't think people realize how fast he is. And that rocket that he took for a touchdown the other night had a heck of a block by Cooper Zarowski, our tight side A-back, of just kind of really just getting in the way of their overhang, and who was coming up to set the edge. And then Eric saw that block and stuck his foot in the ground. And we did a good enough job on the interior of taking some good angles and cutting defenders off. And then, Eric, once he gets in open space, he could run away from people or he could run over people. And on that play, he kind of did a little bit of both. He ran through some tackles. I think he jumped over a kid, and then, he turned on the Jets and was gone. So, yeah, definitely a spectacular run. And that's him and Ben both. I mean, Ben's 195 pounds. He's a bigger back, and I know a lot of his success comes on the perimeter, but he runs the ball between the tackles really tough as well.
Coach, I want to talk a little bit about your quarterback play. I know Bucci is now heading your offense, and it looked like to me, you guys are using him a lot, as a third running back. I know sometimes when he rides the fullback and he pulls it, and he'll follow the actual blocker and get upfield. How crucial is it for you guys to keep Bucci healthy this year? Also, too, how pleased were you with his actual playmaking abilities on Friday night?
Yeah, Andrew does an excellent job, and last year as a junior, he was backing up Nick Tapia, and Nick was out for 2 weeks with a separated shoulder, and Andrew stepped right into that role. And that's kind of when we knew, he's going to be that guy this year. And, he was able to walk into that role calmly and play really well in the 2 games that Nick was out. And, when Nick came back, we used kind of Andrew as kind of a Swiss Army knife, but he's done an excellent job of really kind of taking on that leadership role at the quarterback position, and, knowing the whole offense, knowing everyone's responsibility. And he's just a tough kid. I mean, he's a wrestler. And yeah, he relishes, I think, kind of pulling that ball sometimes and lowering his shoulder on somebody. He never shies away from contact. And he's a good little athlete. We just did miles per hour today, and in our strength and conditioning class, and he's a 19 mile per hour kid. So he's got a little burst to him. And like I said, he's just a tough, strong kid with that wrestling background.
Let's talk a little bit about you alluded to something about your passing game. On Friday night, I know you guys targeted a couple different receivers. How important is it to you moving forward for you to be able to establish some type of passing? I won't even say attack, but just some type of passing game, efficient passing game, in order for you guys to continue to push the needle the way that you have.
Yeah, running this offense a while back, I sat down with Bruce Kay, who used to be the head coach at Cary Grove. and he talked about just a balanced offense, and for him, flexible and triple option team, and they have been for years, and they do it just about better than anyone in the state of Illinois, maybe even in the country with this offense. And he talked about at least the illusion of balance. And for us, we're going to get people near the line of scrimmage. We know that, and we have to be able to throw and hurt teams with that big play, kind of like Nathan had the other night. And that's just something that we rely on in this offense, is that we're going to be able to throw that ball up, only a few times a game, but when we do, it's going to be for big plays. And that's, Nathan for us last year had 10 catches and nearly 300 yards because he was that big play guy for us, and we hit some other receivers in the past game, with some big plays last year, but Nathan consistently was that guy for us that when the defense is committing the line of scrimmage, we got to have that ability to complete a pass deep that's going to make them go, okay, we cannot play that tight to the line of scrimmage or they're going to throw for a touchdown. And Nathan was that guy for us. And I think we got a couple other guys that kind of fit that role.
Coach, also too, you guys blocked it looked like you guys blocked a punt first quarter, I believe it was, that led to your first score. Talk to me a little bit about your special teams. I know you guys during practice, you practice special teams, but how key was special teams for you guys Friday night against Guilford? Obviously you had the block punt.
Yeah, all night really. Our special teams were great. We had the deflection early on, gave us great field position. Eric punted the ball really well. Eric was our special teams player of the week. He had 3 or 4 really nice punts, great hang time, allowed our coverage team to get down there, didn't allow a guy like Tilson to get a return. And then on that last drive, we weren't able to keep the drive going, but Eric punted the ball down to the 6-yard line and made them have to potentially go 94 yards to get the tying score. So that was huge for us. So special teams, Jojo Pena knocked a couple of his first kickoffs out of the end zone. And then other than that, he was directional kicking. We decided we didn't want to kick to Messiah Tilson. So he was kicking some, deep right when Messiah was on the left. And so, yeah, our special teams the other night, really good.
Coach, let's look at next week's matchup. Freeport coming off a huge win over there at Boylan against Boylan last Friday. I know Coach Dedman and the Pretzels are on a high right now. How do you prepare for a team like that that's coming off a huge win against a successful program like the Titans?
Yeah, there's no one in our program that looks past Freeport at all. They've always played us tough, always. We went over there, and I think it was 2018, and we thought we had a pretty good team, and they played us. It was 10-6 game, and they had it on 4th down, like 4th and 15 from the 20-yard line, and had a pass go just out of the hands of their receiver in the end zone. We escaped that one with a win. So they've always played us tough. So watching them on film, they looked good. They looked solid. They mix their offense between their kind of wing T-ish type stuff and their spread stuff. They always have athletes. Looks like they have a new quarterback who's pretty nice little trigger man with the ball. And defensively, they got some big kids up front, and they always have the athletes kind of rally to the ball quickly. So they looked really good, against Boylan, and so we're looking forward to Friday night. It's to us no different than lining up. To us, they kind of check a lot of the boxes like Guilford checked with the athletes and with the size up front. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's gonna be a fun one.
Should be a really good game. Definitely should be a really good game. Guys, anything before we let Coach Beck go?
Not much. It was fun watching you last week, Coach, and I'll be there this week too with the Freeport game. I'm hoping for another good one. You probably don't want it to be quite so exciting, but I'd like it that way.
Yeah, that's not good for my blood pressure, but it was a good high school.
That's why you take vacations, Coach.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was a good high school football game, and like I said, Guilford played a heck of a game, and they're going to give some team problems, and hopefully we play a little bit better Friday night, and don't let it come down to the last play of the game.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that game you were talking about earlier, if I remember right, didn't like Freeport have like a pass down to the 1 or something, like the play before that got called back by a penalty where they had kind of a blatant hold in the passing. I remember their quarterback was scrambling all over that game, I think.
Yeah, you remember it pretty well, Matt. You got a pretty good memory. That was Major Deadman was the quarterback.
I was thinking it might be, yeah. It was either him or McShane, I remembered.
Yeah, he had several big scrambles that game, and there was a pass inside the 5 that got called back on holding. And if you do remember on that drive, we had him in like 4th and 40 something, and we got called for a fake mask and an unsportsmanlike conduct on the same play.
Oh, I know, 30 yards on penalty, and
brought it back to 4th and 14 or something for that last play. But yeah, it was one of those crazy games. But yeah, they
I remember
always played us tough.
I remember about it too is that Coach Denman was not happy with the holding call, but that was like in the early days when I had to take video, and I showed him. I said, and I showed it to him, and it was clearly a hold. It was right. The guy didn't have to because he was like 6 or 7 yards from the quarterback, but it was a very, very clear hold, and I had it on, so there was no complaint.
Yeah, we had a pretty good defensive end that night, Nat Williams for us, and Nat he was more of a speed rusher. He's a tall, thinner kid, but that time he kind of changed it up to a bull rush, and their right tackle, Deadman had already broken the pocket. He was already out of the pocket, and their tackle just kind of wrapped up our Nat Williams, and as he was going back, just took him down with him. And we saw it, and we were all yelling and pointing, and the flag came out. But yeah, we lost track when Major started scrambling, and he hit a kid with a pass and got it down inside the 5. So yeah, we when we saw that flag come out, because he was a heck of a football player.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah, you didn't even bring up last year's game.
Well, Coach. Well, hey, it's always a pleasure having you on. I'm pretty sure we'll do this again, maybe mid-season, see where you're at, check back in with you. Good luck the rest of the way. Stay healthy, and good luck this weekend as you guys head over to Freeport.
All right, thank you very much. Always fun talking with you guys.
Absolutely. Coach Beck,
thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, guys, I think, first of all, I want to say this, what Coach Beck has done over there at Belvidere North, and I think both of you can attest to this. Number one, great guy. Let's put that at the forefront. What he does to get those guys ready, guys, every year. They're not always the most athletic team, and I think he would admit that. But he gets those kids ready to play every year. And in the years that I've known, they've always been in the conversation as one of the better teams in the league. And you can't say more than enough, about what he's done as a head coach of getting his kids ready each and every year. The guys that he hires to bring him, to bring himself around good company. Because again, the head coach has to have good assistants. I think the better your assistants, the better you are as a head coach. So, what he's done in hiring some really good quality coaches over there at Belvidere North, we definitely need to illuminate that in a good light and say, wow, great job of hiring some really good coaches, and, doing the things that he's done year in and year out with that program speaks volumes to, who he is as an individual, but also to who he is as a head coach and how he understands the game and what he understands it takes to actually build a program.
Well, what I want to say about Coach Beck, and it's my clearest memory of him, was, I forget if it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. They had a terrible call in the last couple seconds of the game where they make them lose a playoff game. And after the game, he was talking to the kids and talked about how we're a family. You're going to remember our time together for the rest of your life. I will be there for you here, whether you're 30 or 40 or you're 50. And it was such a gut-wrenching moment. And instead of complaining about things, they just talked about a family and how much they meant to each other. and every kid was just bawling his eyes out. They were still destroyed by the loss, and yet he's telling them how much they meant to him and how much he will always mean to them. And if they ever have need help, to call him or whatever. And I'm like, man, I'd like my kids to play for a coach like that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. He's a great guy. He loves his program. Loves his kids. It seems like he's really embraced Belvidere North, and they've embraced him as well. But guys, what he's done over there since he's been at the head coaching position has been nothing short of phenomenal. And I think he's going to continue to have success, even though their numbers are down, their talent's kind of down, even though they still have Booker and Roman. But as I look down the pipeline and see what they have coming up, it's nothing like those two gentlemen I just alluded to, and Roman and Booker. Those are two special gifts that that may come around once every 10 or 15 years. But I think Coach Beck does a really good job of preparing his kids on an annual basis, and I think that's why we continue to sit here on the Bailey Pod annually, and we're talking about how well coached they are, how they played on Friday night, how they played on the Saturday. That truly speaks big testament to their coaching staff over there at Belvidere North.
Yeah, I think this conference is just loaded with great men as coaches. I mean, they're every one of them, they're like, boy, I would have loved to have them as my high school coach.
Yeah, for sure. We got some great coaches here in the area. Harold, anything before we get out of here?
Well, I was just going to say, and I was going to mention this Coach Beck, but I didn't want to jump into the conversation because it was going so well. But Coach Beck is part of an organization called the National High School Weightlifters Association, and he's you get certified and you go through. He has set up his program that they might not have the pure talent of Booker and Roman coming up, right, but they're still going to be competitive and compete for the conference. He prepares those kids to be great football players, but as you have both mentioned, and if you go to Belvidere, anyone will tell you this. If any of those kids are out in the community, you don't have to worry about them. They're right, doing the right thing when the lights are off or the lights are on. Doesn't matter. They're doing the right thing. And that's a credit to not only the coaching staff, the entire school, and really anyone involved in that program. They do a great job of raising those kids correctly. And I think any program would be proud to have Coach Beck as a coach. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And again, guys, I don't continue to repeat myself, but just, the way that I've had a chance to get to know him over the last decade or so, just a very genuine guy, loves to talk football, but loves to talk life as well. And again, cares about his kids, when you have a head coach that cares about his kids, those kids will run through a brick wall for you. And I think you both know that. And I'm pretty sure, since he's been at the head coaching position over at Belvidere North, I'm pretty sure every kid will come back and say nothing but warm words about Coach Beck. So I wish him the best. I think he's going to go on and do some good things this year, guys. So, guys, that's going to wrap up our show. This episode here on the Bailey Pod. As always, I appreciate you guys. Oh, before we go, Matt Trowbridge, is there something that you would like to share with us? I'm reading via the internet, all over the internet, that Matt Trowbridge is deciding to retire. Tell me this isn't true, Matt.
I'm really old. And last couple of years, I take naps in the afternoon. And so it's time to hang it up and just go play golf and tennis.
35 years. Wow, Matt. Well, I just want to tell you, man, I know we highlighted you last week in the show, and, now this big news comes out, I believe today. Harold shared it with me, and then it just came to just keep popping up the entire day. I just want to let you know, man, your work will definitely be missed when you turn the page, and you've done a phenomenal job here in the Rockford area for 35 plus years. We've been actually honored to have a great writer such as yourself, but also a great man that you are, the good person that you are. And we just want to say thank you, man. You really mean a lot to this community. So hopefully, you'll stick around doing something in sports. I don't know. Maybe you'll become a football coach. Is that? I'm just teasing, Matt.
It means so much to me to hear kind words from someone like you who's made such a huge impact on the community too. And
appreciate it.
I was very touched, last week. Harold didn't know anything about me. Did some nice, and my wife was in the other room, and she came. Boy, those guys were nice. And so, thank you so much, both of you.
Hey, tell her you didn't pay us. Tell her you didn't pay us. Tell her you didn't pay us. Just teasing. No, man, but salute to you, in your next part of your journey, man. Again, like I said before, haven't seen many writers like you. You're definitely a special man, and I'm happy to say that you've been really great addition to my show, the Bailey Pod. You've made me better. You've made my show better, and I think Harold would probably say the same thing. But I just want to say good luck in whatever you do. I'm pretty sure we'll continue to do the Bailey Pod for the rest of the season. Hopefully next season too. If you're always more than welcome here on the Bailey Pod. So I just want you to know that.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I'm not sure if how much I'll know the rest of the year to.
Right.
Well, Matt, I just want to say congratulations on a fantastic Hall of Fame career. Not only a Hall of Fame writer, Hall of Fame person. If I don't care if you talk to the first athlete you ever interviewed to the last one, I guarantee you they all have warm feelings and they understand the respect you gave them as a high school athlete, the coaches, the administrators, so many people that you've touched along the way. It's incredible. And like I said last week, and I'll say it again, the history of Rockford sports cannot be written without Matt Trowbridge. And I hope someday, I hope some way that you are recognized more than just what we say here on the Bailey Pod, because you'd have 1,000 people standing there and applauding you. Also, too, if you're ever on a golf course, I hit them too. I don't hit them as straight as you, but I do hit them, and I'd give it a shot any day of the week.
Again, right, Matt, salute my brother.
Send me your phone number on Facebook or something. I'll have to get up to. I love Ledges and Mactown both. I'll have to get up there sometime.
Absolutely. We'll make it a deal. And Tim, if you want to come on along and be the caddy, that's fine too.
I don't.
Or hey, if you outdrive us, that's great too.
Maybe we can meet for lunch, guys. How about that? Maybe we can just do lunch. Okay, I'll buy lunch. How about that?
Oh,
I'm not too. I'm not too.
Hey, we're sports writers. We never turned down a free lunch. That used to be the big perk of the job.
There you go, guys. Absolutely. Well, guys, hey, I want to say thank you again. Great show, great night. Coach Beck did a phenomenal job joining us and answering the questions that he had from him. I'm pretty sure I'll see you guys this weekend and the weeks to come. Let's stay in touch, and as always, guys, stay safe and stay healthy. Appreciate you guys.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah, guys, that's going to be a wrap here on the Bailey Pod. Another great show in the books. Wow, what a great show. I think Coach Beck in Belvidere North, guys, based on what I saw Friday night, they're going to be a force to reckon with in this conference in 2025. Just loaded offensively. In the way that they played against Guilford was nothing short than phenomenal. Coming back, second half, making the adjustments they needed to make, and just really getting it done at home. And now they go over to Freeport Friday night. Pretzel's coming off a big victory over at Boylan. So, right now Freeport's on that high. It's going to be interesting to see how that game goes, but again, I want to say thank you to all you viewers. Guys, remember, you go follow, go like the Bailey Pod. I'll bring it to you. Like I said earlier, I'll bring it to you every Thursday night at 8 p.m. So just make sure You click that bell, like I said, at the bottom of the screen, so you can be notified, prior to the actual content that will drop on Thursday night. We'll also too have special guests throughout the week, a special show that will be airing either on a Saturday or a Monday, or Saturday or Monday, a show that will be catching up with either ex-players that have gone on to the next level, ex-players that have actually made an impact, that did make an impact in the Nick 10, impact players of the Nick 10. Again, make sure you guys go follow, go like. And then lastly, make sure you guys get out, go follow your teams, get out there, go support these young men. They work hard year round to be able to come out, and showcase their skills and their talents on Friday night. Again, it's just make sure, again, I don't mean to be so repetitive, but make sure you go follow, you go like, so you can hear this great content on a weekly basis. Good night, everybody. Enjoy, be safe, and be kind.